We tend to picture ancient human life as a relentless grind. Wake up, hunt something, gather something, try not to get eaten, collapse, repeat. But that picture is almost entirely wrong. When researchers study the last remaining hunter-gatherer societies, they find something that surprises almost everyone. These groups typically only need about 3 to 5 hours a day to get everything they need, like food and shelter. So what did ancient humans do with the remaining hours of the day? With no internet, no YouTube, no video games, and no books, what did they even consider fun? It turns out the answer to that question is one of the most interesting things we've ever learned about our species.
Let's start from the beginning. By the time the first modern humans show up around 300,000 years ago, fire's already part of daily life. And fire did something huge. It gave people 2 to 4 extra hours of light and warmth after the sun went down. It kept predators away, and it gave people a reason to sit together in one spot with nothing to do. So what did they do? What do you do when there's no more work, no threat to run from, and the whole night to spend however you want? Well, one answer is sitting on the walls of caves that are still standing today. Some of the oldest cave paintings ever found are in Indonesia, and they're at least 45,500 years old. Picture this. Someone crawling on their hands and knees through a pitch-black cave, holding a torch. They find a good wall, then they press their hand flat against a cold stone and blow paint through a hollow bone, drawing an outline of their hand. Why would anyone do that? Why go through all that trouble, underground, in the dark, where nobody might ever even see it? We genuinely don't know, and that mystery is a big part of what makes it so fascinating. What we do know is that this wasn't a one-off thing. It happened everywhere. France, South Africa, every corner of the ancient world that humans reached, they left art behind. And then there was music. Researchers once found a flute inside a cave in Germany. It was carved from a bird bone, about the length of a pencil with 4 small holes punched into it. It's roughly 40,000 years old. Here's the wild part. The scientists made a copy of the flute and tried playing it. And it worked. They were able to play real notes and real melodies. Someone 40,000 years ago didn't just accidentally discover that hollow bones make noise. They sat down and built an instrument. They figured out that the holes changed the pitch. They made something that could play music. And if people were making instruments, people were playing them. And if people were playing them, other people were listening. And if people were listening, were they just sitting there? Or were they dancing? We can't fossilize a dance, but here's what we can say. Every single human culture ever studied, anywhere on Earth, has music and dance. Not most of them, all of them, with no exceptions. Is that a coincidence? Or is dancing something so deeply built into us that no culture has ever managed to live without it? And then there were toys. In 2021, archaeologists working in Germany announced the discovery of carved figurines made from mammoth ivory. Some were animals, some were human-like figures. They were roughly 40,000 years old. But here's what's remarkable. They weren't functional. They weren't weapons. They weren't tools. They were small enough to fit in a child's hand, smoothed from handling, worn in the way that only comes from being played with constantly. Someone sat down 40,000 years ago, carved the tiny horse out of mammoth tusk, and gave it to a child to play with. Let that sink in. The urge to give children something to play with isn't a product of modern parenting philosophy. It's ancient. It may be one of the most fundamental human impulses that exist. The Bushmen of the Kalahari are a group of people still alive today who still lead lifestyles similar to ancient humans. Anthropologist Polly Wiesner studied the people of the Kalahari and found that when the work of the day was done, ancient humans gathered and told stories. Not just practical information, not just gossip. Stories with characters, stories with moral complexity, trickster figures who outsmarted stronger enemies, heroes who sacrificed everything, explanations for why the world works the way it does. And here's what's scientifically fascinating about storytelling as entertainment. Research by evolutionary anthropologist Daniel Smith found that skilled storytellers in hunter-gatherer societies are significantly more popular,
have more friends, receive more food sharing, and have more children than people who are poor storytellers. Being entertaining had direct survival benefits. The person who could hold a group spellbound around a fire wasn't just showing off. They were performing a social function as important as hunting or gathering. They were binding the group together, creating shared identity, building the kind of social cohesion that allowed humans to cooperate at scales no other primate ever managed.
As humans began settling, planting crops, and building the first permanent communities, something interesting happened to entertainment. It didn't disappear, it got more elaborate. In 2013, archaeologists in Turkey discovered what are believed to be among the world's oldest board game pieces. They were carved stone tokens shaped like pigs, dogs, and pyramids, roughly 5,000 years old. The Royal Game of Ur, a board game from ancient Mesopotamia, dates back around 4,600 years. We still know the rules because a Babylonian clay tablet was found with them written down. People were playing board games with documented, codified rules before most of the ancient world's famous monuments were even built. And this makes complete evolutionary sense. Games teach strategy, they build social bonds, they let young people practice competition without real stakes. The child who learns to read an opponent's move in a game is developing the same cognitive skills needed to track prey and anticipate threats. Play isn't the opposite of survival. Play is practice for survival. This is why lion cubs wrestle. This is why children in every culture, in every era, spontaneously invent games without being taught to. The drive to play isn't a distraction from being human. It is one of the core mechanisms that made us human. So what does all of this actually mean? The version of ancient humans most of us grew up with is pretty bleak. Scared, cold, barely surviving, no time for anything but staying alive. But what if that's exactly backwards? For as long as humans have existed, they made art. They built instruments and played music. They carved toys for their children. They gathered around fires and told each other stories. They invented games and played them seriously. They didn't do those things once things got easier. They did them the whole time, through the hard parts too, woven into daily life like eating or sleeping. Because the need to create something, to play, that was never a luxury. It was just part of being human. It was there before any city existed, before anyone wrote anything down. And every time you get completely absorbed in a story, or a song hits you in a way you weren't expecting, or you laugh so hard you can't breathe, are you being distracted from something more important? Or are you doing exactly what humans have always done?